this lesson, I'm going to explain the effects of the environment on the fetus and your role in helping to create a safe environment. The fetal environment is crucial for fetal development. The environment is composed of the amnion, the chorion, amniotic fluid, and placenta. So let's just first review that for all of this environment to develop, implantation has occurred. So we've had implantation in the uterus. The blastocyst is what has implanted into the endometrium. So from this, the amnion is going to form. And the chorion. So the amnion will form from the inner membrane of that blastocyst and will develop into the amniotic sac. So that is going to surround that embryo or fetus. And then the chorion is the outer membrane. Okay, so amnion is the inner, chorion is the outer membrane. And this is going to form the fetal side of the placenta. The chorion develops vascular structures. Becomes vascular, and that becomes the chorionic villi and forms the placenta. To better understand the chorionic villi, think of them as finger-like projections that really just grab hold and maximize contact with the maternal blood. See in this image, the chorionic villi. So here we have the placenta, and here's our chorionic villi. So they're just like these big fingers that are going to grab hold and maximize that contact. It's going to increase the ability to get nutrients to the fetus because they can pull more from the maternal blood supply. The amniotic fluid is our next component here to talk about. So the amniotic fluid is very important. It's the sac that the fetus is going to grow in. And that sac is, in the beginning, made from maternal fluids that are going to fill it. So you can see in this image, the sac and the fluids. And then it's going to eventually become composed of fetal urine. So the fetus will swallow it and urinate and increase the amniotic fluid volume. So the amniotic fluid has a huge role in fetal environment. So it's going to provide a cushion. It's going to provide protection, a barrier to external things. So it's keeping the fetus enclosed so nothing can get in to harm. It is going to help with fetal development because now the fetus has free range of motion and movement and can grow and develop those muscles and the bones. And then it's also going to help with temperature regulation. It's going to keep that temperature of the amniotic sac regulated so that the fetus stays safe and doesn't get too hot. Think of a water balloon for this. So nothing can get in or out until it pops. And that's how it's a barrier. So when you have this sac, unless it pops, nothing can get in or out. It's just like a water balloon. So the fetus is going to also do practice breaths in this amniotic fluid. The lungs do nothing in utero with gas exchange. It all happens with the placenta, but the lungs do need to do practice breaths to get ready to work on the outside. And that's also going to increase the alveoli in the lungs and help with the lung development. And our last little piece here is our placenta, last part of our fetal environment. So the placenta is going to pull nutrients. It is going to perform the gas exchange. So that's important. It's not the lungs. The placenta does the gas exchange. And then also it takes over the hormone secretion, and that is at 12 weeks that the placenta will take over that hormone control. The placenta is usually present and working between 10 and 12 weeks gestation. So all this will happen. So the gas exchange, let's talk about that real quick. So with our umbilical cord, you can see here, we have veins and arteries. The veins and the arteries are going to pull nutrients and take waste. So the arteries are taking the waste away from the fetus. So it's the stuff that's not being used, the non-oxygenated blood. And then the veins are bringing the nutrition and the oxygen to the fetus. And if you look in fetal circulation, that module, there's going to be a lot more information on that. All right, our fetal environment. So now that we have the environment developed, let's look at the different things that might be able to invade this safe environment. So drugs, alcohol, viruses, and antibodies, these can all cross the placenta. Bacteria, it cannot cross, and that's because it's a big molecule. So it cannot get across that placenta. So that's a good thing. And then our barrier. So what's going to protect this environment is going to be that amniotic sac and then something called a mucus plug. So if this person was pregnant, here's a fetus in here growing, and that baby's in that amniotic sac in here, there is something called a mucus plug in the cervix. And that is made up of mucus, just discharge type materials, and it acts as a cork. And it's just an extra barrier to keep things out from getting in. Obviously, that's not going to help much for the things that cross the placenta. So that's what we'll need to make sure that the mom is careful of to keep that safe fetal environment. Our management and education aren't going to be too much at this time. The patient usually is not aware she's pregnant. The management is going to really revolve around ensuring the environment is safe. So for development, so we need to make sure the mom's not consuming alcohol. We need to make sure that she's not using any illegal drugs or just prescription medications that could cross the placenta and be harmful. We also need to make sure proper development of the fetal environment occurs. So for this, that can be done with an ultrasound. They'll watch and make sure that the fetus is developing properly, that the environment's safe, that there's enough amniotic fluid, all of that. If the environment doesn't develop properly, then the pregnancy is not going to be viable. So we really need to watch and ensure that it's a safe environment. Our education needs to revolve around ensuring that the patient's taking prenatal vitamins, that there's no drinking alcohol, there's no safe amount, as well as that the medications that she takes are safe, even those prescription ones. It's also good to ensure that they have a list of safe over-the-counter medications that they can take at home while they're pregnant. Our nursing concepts for this patient are reproduction and human development, because reproduction has occurred and the environment is necessary for proper human development to occur. Okay, so our key points to bring it all together is that the amnion, chorion, amniotic fluid, and the placenta are all part of our fetal environment. The amnion is going to form the outer membrane and enclose the embryo. So it's going to enclose it. And then our chorion is going to become vascular and develop the placenta. Remember those villi, the chorionic villi are those finger-like projections that really grab hold and maximize the absorption from maternal blood. Our amniotic fluid. So this is our barrier, our cushion. It's going to help with fetal growth because of movement. If there's no fluid in there, that fetus can't move very well. So the fluid in there is going to help that baby swim all around and develop and grow. And then temperature regulation. So remember that sac is around, it's filled with amniotic fluid, and that's going to help protect that fetus. The placenta. So it's important to remember that it's an organ and it's there to, specifically to grow a healthy baby. So this organ is going to do hormones, and that's going to start at 12 weeks. And the placenta does gas exchange as well. And then our alcohol, our drugs, and our viruses, these can all cross the placenta. So just ensuring that we have good hand hygiene from viruses to prevent viruses, and that the patient is not drinking alcohol or using any substances that she shouldn't use. Make sure you check out the resources attached to this lesson and review how all of these little pieces come together and play a role in the fetal environment. Now go out and be your best selves today, and as always, happy nursing.